All right, we're going to start in about 2-3 minutes. We'll just wait for people to trickle in. And for those joining, I hope you're having a good weekend, and I really appreciate that you're here. All right, it's 7 p.m. Thank you to everyone who's joined in. Today is April 3rd. It's Friday, April 3rd, 2026, and we're doing Q2 reset session. What we are going to do is reflect on what happened in Q1 of 2026, 3 months of the year already over in pretty quickly, I must say. So before we get into the details, I just wanted to quickly take a moment and introduce myself. Hi, I'm Tina, and I run this publication on a Substack called Consistency Collective, and I basically write about what it is to be consistent and the behind the scenes, because I was quite tired and frustrated of hearing all the perfect stories, perfect morning routines, and, as if life doesn't happen. And my life can get really chaotic and busy. Somehow I realized that we really need to talk about what real consistency looks like, especially when you're a mom, you're working, or a caregiver, and you have multiple priorities. So once again, welcome to everyone who's here. All right. So now with the introduction out of the way, let's first look at what does it take to build a plan. I received this wonderful little message in one of the communities that I was a part of, and when I talked about the Q2 reset, he was kind enough to say that how it scares him and how the commitment of what I'm going to do and the feeling of what if it doesn't happen. The thing about planning for your quarters needs to be more, this is my belief, that, hi Noemi, welcome, join in. We're just getting started with Q2 Reset. And what I wanted to first do is go through what this session is going to be all about. It's quite compact. It's not very heavy duty. You just have to be yourself, make sure you have a pen and paper handy so that you can sit and write and be away from the devices as much as possible, though we will take help of your phone, and I will tell you where that comes in. So I'll just go ahead and share my screen so we can take it from there. I hope this is the right one. Yes. All right, so now we'll begin the first part of the session. What is a Q2 reset? This is a good point in the year with 3 months of the year already gone, which is 12 weeks. And when we are just at the juncture where we are moving into the next quarter, where half of the year will be over, and that can already sound very scary. And what is it that we can do at this point? We reflect back on what happened, the promises we made to ourselves in the beginning of the year, and where we are today. Maybe we could learn from that. And then when we plan for the next 12 weeks, how do we take that forward into something more meaningful so that when we look back at it again at a Q3 reset, when we do that in 3 months from now, you're at a much better place of saying, okay, these are the promises I did and the actions I took. So now, before we begin, I hope you have a paper and pencil with you. If you don't, I would recommend you do that. If you can't do that, maybe you open up your notepad on your phone. Try to not be distracted and probably shut off the notifications, because I would highly recommend you spend the next 30 minutes more focused on trying to focus on yourself, because think of it as time that you're spending with yourself. So if you have a pen and paper, keep your phone with you, And make sure if you're joining us from the phone, of course, that's not something you can put away. And the last thing, if you're someone like me who is a slave of the calendar, well, I would say 80-90% of the time, because for me, if it's not on the calendar, it's probably not happening in my life. So I would recommend having the calendar as your reference so you can quickly scan through what exactly happened in the last quarter. Okay. While if you're grabbing a pen and paper or anything of that sort, I'll just walk you through just to set a bit of expectations on what this session is about and what this is not. This is a session where we'll be setting intentions for the next quarter. We'll be quickly reflecting on what happened in the past quarter. We'll also look at, it's more like a guided reflection. And you'll have, by the end of the session, the goal is to have some sort of a direction where you want to go. If you have done reflection already, you'll have a much robust plan to take with you. If not, you can look at it as at least a high-level direction, and then you can probably spend some more time later on now that the direction is set. I like to think of these sessions more like as a GPS, which is the GPS doesn't drive for you. It gives you a direction. It tells you where the next turn is ahead. But at the end of the day, you're at the driver's seat. So you're just setting the direction. You're finding where do you want to go. All right. So now what we are going to do is we're going to first set up our promise. Sorry, not set up. We're going to look at our promise. The way I like to look at my quarters is a little different from what you're probably used to. A lot of people like to set goals, measurable ones. And the way my life goes, sometimes it's very difficult to set goals and have a number attached to it. Things happen, and as much as I'd like to commit, sometimes I just cannot. And it sets me up for failure more than success. So after many failed planning attempts, this is the one that really works for me, and I wanted to share with you. Maybe it does. If you like to be more aggressive, by all means, set a goal, put a number. But when you look back, for now, we look at the Q1 of 2026. I like to look at it not as goals, but as promises. What did I promise when I was in January? So I'm going to give you about 3 minutes. I'll put a timer at my end so you don't have to worry. When you look back at January 1st, and please don't take your phone right now, just out of memory. If you want, what I like to do is I just like to close my eyes and think about it's January 1st or the first week or last week of December, and I said, this year I'm going to do dash. So take a moment and try to write it down, like I'll finally start working out, or maybe you wanted to set up a community. For me, it was starting a publication on Substack, and I had put a goal for myself that I will write 6 newsletters, which will be sent out twice every month. So I'm going to start the timer right now. You'll have 2 minutes to reflect on that. If you have any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat. You have 2 minutes. I wish they could play some music here. That would be nice. If you feel like sharing anything in the chat, feel free to do so. About 30 seconds left for this exercise to be done. This is purely by memory. And that is it. Timer's up. I hope you had enough time to kind of quickly reflect. The idea to keep it really short is to see what really bubbles up very quickly, because we are going to spend a little more time in the next section. All right, now this is the section where I like to really go back in time and reflect what actually happened. A lot of times we imagine that we are going to do something. We've probably, like, our brains sometimes overestimates a lot of things. So now is a good time to collect the evidence of what actually happened and bring that to light. So if you have your phone with you, go check on your photos, look in your calendar. If you have a journal handy, by all means, look into it. And later on, after the end of the session, I will give you a workbook where you can actually print it out and then, spend some more time on this exercise. So we'll allocate about another 3 minutes. And if you think you need a bit more, I'll be happy to, add a bit more time. But I found like 3 minutes is about the right time. And your time starts now. And if you have, again, here to answer any questions, we have about a minute left. About 20 seconds more. And that's all the time we have for this section. So how was it? Anybody wants to share a couple of words in the chat? Was it reflective? Were you able to, did you find a gap at all? There were many times that I've disappointed myself in, setting really high goals and not really delivering on it. But this time I was a little extra cautious because I wanted to cheat a little, in the sense that I wanted to set myself up for failure. So I said I'm going to write 6 newsletters, which I did. So that was good. However, I did take up the habit of meditation, and I literally showed up, I think, less than 10 times in all of 90 days. So I did set myself up for failure there. But that was okay. I did not quite expect that. So when you look back right now and when you compared the two parts of what you thought, what is the promise you made and what actually happened, what are the 3 top words that come to your mind? Why that gap might have been there? Don't overthink it. Just quickly, for me, it was just I had promised myself too many things. And when we move on to the planning session, it's going to be a lot easier because now you have primed yourself in many ways. So I'm going to give another 1 minute here, because the idea is that what are the top 3 words that come up? Close your eyes and you'll have the answer with you right there. So And your 1 minute starts now. All right, so that's 1 minute's up. And if you are adventurous and if you are feeling it, feel free to share those 1 or 3 of those words. If you feel like writing more, by all means do that. The idea is to find out the top 1, 2, 3 things that really mattered in the last quarter, so that when you're taking it into Q2, you're at a much better place in terms of planning in a more realistic way, because you want to win and not feel like I did not keep on my promises. All right, now we're going to move on to the next section, which is, this is my favorite part. I like to look at things I like to think of it as a promise I make to myself. And I will go out, have fun with my friends, or a friend or a relative might come in and ask for a favor, and you will say, okay, I promise to do that. But what is the real promise that you make to yourself? And more often than not, we don't prioritize the promises we make to ourselves. So this is a moment of that reflection, to be intentional about those promises and say, hey, this is the promise I would like to make to myself. So this is where I say, put a stake in the ground. What is that one promise you want to make for Q2? Write it down, say it aloud. So I'm going to give you 3 minutes here to reflect on this. Try to keep it as concrete and measurable as possible, in the sense like I will launch my website, or I will finish a course, I will publish 4 posts by 30th of June 2026. Don't just say I will sign up for the gym. That's easy. You might want to say, I will go to the gym 6 times in 3 months, like twice a month. I know that's not enough, but be specific. And I would recommend, as a guideline, not to overshoot it. Most of the times we know in our heart that this is what you can really do, allowing yourself that, something might come up. If this is the first time you're doing, you want to set yourself up for success, it might be a good idea to push yourself later. However, if you're someone who's adventurous and really wants to dial up, by all means do that. For me, in Q1, I launched an app, and I'm building a community for women so that they can keep promises to themselves. And in Q2 of this year, that's what I'm going to focus on. And I want more women. I want to reach out to more women. So I'm going to start the timer right now. This is there for your reference. You just have to make one promise. And we'll do 3 minutes for this session. And if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat. I'll be happy to answer them. All right. That's the time up for, I hope you've found a promise that you want to make to yourself for Q2. If anyone's bold enough or feeling generous and wants to go ahead and share it in the chat, I would love to see the promise you're making. And I hope you found the session useful. And if I can find my screen. Okay. So now we talked about the GPS, how this planning is more like giving you a direction. You're on the driver's seat. Now your GPS is set. You have a place to go and a promise to keep, work to be done. Thank you so much for joining this session. I really appreciate the fact that you're here. As a thank you, I will share a link where you can get a workbook, which is, you have 2 parts to it. One is a 1-pager workbook, where it's a 1-pager. You can just print it, do it every quarter. And it's the questions that we went through today. You can just do it on your own. And if you want to follow along with the deck, you have a link as well. And thank you so much for joining. I wish you a lovely weekend. If you haven't already signed up, do subscribe to the Consistency Collective. I will be doing a lot of these workshops in the coming weeks. And let's keep promises together. Bye-bye.